And to some reflections on the time period of Sfiras Omer. It starts Mimachras HaShabbos. The first day of Pesach is not part of the count, but the rest of Pesach is. Everything is part of the Omer except for the first day of Pesach, and that's something which needs to be understood, and it might be a key to understand the chiluk, the difference between Rishon Shel Pesach and Shvi Shel Pesach. What changed? As Shvi Shel Pesach is part of the Omer, and the first day of Pesach not. And so just understand, the whole process that we're going through till we reach Matan Torah. So now a major event happened later on in history on the day of the Omer. Right? Even though they weren't able to be makrib the Omer, there was a situation parallel to ours. Right? They had Sfiras Omer, but without the Korban Omer. And that was in the days of Mordechai and Esther. The Gemara says that the day that Haman went to pick up Mordechai for the ride, right, that day was the day of the Omer. It was the first day Chol HaMoed Pesach. Esther's fast was a 3-day fast that coursed through Pesach, and it was the first day Chol HaMoed. And when Haman came to pick up Mordechai, he saw that he was sitting with his Talmidim, and they were learning the halachas of the Omer. And he was teaching him the halachas of the Kamitza, to be Makayim Neshama Parms Vasenu, to learn the halachas in lieu of the Korban Omer. And when Haman came, so Mordechai immediately told the Talmidim to run, so they shouldn't be caught up in the thing that's going on between him and Haman. And he said, what were you guys learning? He said, we're learning about this korban. It was Mancha Beis Meshayakayim. We used to bring the Ribono Shel Olam the Omer. He said, was this gold? Was it silver? What was it? No, it was just a kaimet seirin, just a fistful of barley. So he says, your fistful of barley overcame Ma'aser Salafim Kikar Kesef, right, that I gave to buy you guys out. So Haman understood that he was defeated by the Korban Omer, and that was the day that Haman was hung. Haman was hung on that day. The Milchama, for reasons that we'll explain, right, happened a whole 11 months later in Adar. But Haman was hung on the 16th of Nisan on the day of the Omer, which means that somehow the Omer has something to do, with Mechias Amalek. Now the truth is, in the Seder of the Parshas that we read, from B'Shalach, to Yisro, the simple understanding of the Chumash is that also the original Mechias Amalek happened in the days of the Omer. It happened right after Kriyas Yamsuf. At least that's the way the Chumash sets it up. That after Kriyas Yamsuf, they had the story that happened in Masa Meriva, Yesh Hashem B'Kirbeinu Im Ayin. Then Vayavo Amalek, Vayelachem Yisrael B'Refidim. And the way the Chumash sets up the story in Parshas Yisro, Vayisrom Refidim, Vayavo Midbar Sinai. That's the way the Chumash would have us believe, or the Chumash wants us to understand, that Mechias Amalek happened in the days of the Omer. So there's a real connection over here that needs to be understood. So the Maharal, in more than one place, brings a medrash, to address the issue of why Haman was beat by the Korban Omer. So he brings a medrash in Parshas Emor that says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he makes the sun shine, he makes the wind blow, and he makes crops grow. He does everything that we call running the world. And all that we give him in return is Malo Kometz HaOmer. So Medrash, Parshas Emor, that, as it were, the schar that we pay the Ribono Shel Olam for running the world, right, is just this fistful of barley. Like all the Korban Tamid not, right, and the Tfilos not, and the Talmud Torah not. This, the Korban Omer, right, that's his payment for running the world. That's all we give him for running the world year round. We give him a fistful of seirim, kaimet seirim. So the Maharal explains that the seirim, as we know, is machal behema. An animal is a creature purely of nature. Man is a hybrid. He has a neshama from Shamayim and a guf from Oretz. And that's why man, because of his hybrid status, he's not supposed to eat sarm. He's supposed to eat chitim. He's supposed to eat lechem. Now, when Adam Rishon heard bezeh asatecha tochal lechem, he calmed down that he's not going to be nikshar to the same evu. He's not going to be tied to the same feed bag as his donkey, right? And angels, are bechlal ruchni all together, right? They don't eat at all anything that we know. So the machal sorim is keneged teva, right? Like animal food, because the animal is a creature of pure nature, a pure biochemical entity not a spiritual entity. And what the avodas Hashem that we do with our regular mitzvahs is to make a connection between the spiritual and the physical, try to bring a little bit of ruchnius into this world. Like the Sfarim say, mitzvahs miloshin tzavta, to make a connection, to build a bridge between the spiritual and the physical. Right? Korban Omer represents hakar satov just for the physical, just being makir that the physical, the pure physical that's stripped of all spirituality also comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right? It's not about bridging the universes. It's about being makir that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who's above anything that we know and above Beruma Madregas, this lowly world comes from him, and that's the hakar of Korban. Being makir that teva, teva kashul la'atzmo, with all the hester panim is from him, right? And that hakara conditions this physical realm to be receptive to having ruchnius grafted onto it. If teva would remain totally divorced from ruchnius, then the attempt that we do with our whole avodas Hashem and that we do with our whole lives, being hybrid entities of a neshama and a guf together, it wouldn't work. We wouldn't be able to put kedusha into gashmias if the gashmias were totally, absolutely divorced from ruchnius. The gashmias has to be softened, has to be conditioned. We have to realize that it also comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and then it is conditioned and processed in a way, right, that now ruchnius could be grafted onto it. And that's why the avodah starts with vehenifes ha'omer. The Sfarim say, raise up the Omer. It's a raising up of gashmias, that we have to be makir that the gashmias, the physical, also comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? And that's what the Omer is, just gashmias kishul atzmo, is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? And that, acknowledging that the physical comes from him is what in itself processes the physical world to make it shaykh to having ruchnius grafted onto it. Right? This is the opposite of the message of Amalek. Right? Amalek wants to, divide, make a schism between the ruchni and the gashmi, and that's what the pasuk says in Parshas B'Shach. Ki yod al kes ka. Right? So the kisei is not sholem, and the name is not sholem. What's missing from the name Yud Kei Vav Kei, the Vav and Hey, as we're taught, Al Pi Kabbalah, those are the midas, the 7 midas that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is manhig this world with, the famous 7 that we call Teva, right? The 7 midas that are the 7 weeks of the Omer are connected. The Chesed, the Gevur, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchus. Right, that's the Vav, the 6 midas of the Vav, and the final midah of Malchus is alluded to in the final Hey, and that's missing. Amalek wants to divorce the physical from the spiritual, right? And not, so if HaKadosh Baruch Hu has heaven, he won't have earth. Right? And that's the opposite of the Omer, right? That the Omer is there to associate the Gashmis with HaKadosh Baruch Hu also. And with that, we can now graft and we could pull the universes together. Now, the finality of that process happened at Matan Torah. Vayered Hashem al Har Sinai, says Rashi, Hirchin el Yonim al Tachtonim. There was a tremendous dimensional overlap. Hirchin el Yonim al Tachtonim, right? The heaven came down to earth. Lamasa, that's what it means, that there was Matan Torah. The Torah, its original natural position is in the highest place of heavens, right? Histako Baraisu Barama, HaKadosh made the Torah first. And everything else in reality branched down from the Torah. And now that Torah that's from the highest place is now on earth, right? We've totally synthesized the two universes. Right? And at that time, at Matan Torah, that's what it means. Parcha Nishmasam, their neshama flew out of their body, right? But they also came back to life. And Yisrael Shamdu Har Sinai Paska Zumasim, they had totally transcended Chet of Admiration. We were immortal, right? And we had now broken any barriers that there were between body and soul. And that's the secret. Atzeres Kuli Alma Modu Debinu Lachem. Everyone admits that Yechayev and Simchas Yom Tov on Shavuos. Even Reb Lezu says Simchas Yom Tov is Roshus. Atzeres Kuli Alma Modu Debinu Lachem. Yom Shenitna B'Torah. It's the day the Torah was given. It should be the other way around. It should be the day just of learning. And Jekul Hashem. Yom Shenitna Torah. The Torah came down, was given, and it came down to earth. And now, earth. The physical and the spiritual are no longer in conflict with each other, right? That's at the finality of the process that we reach through the days of the Omer, where we're working on the conditioning the physical world to be ready to receive the graft. The first day of Pesach is not part of the count, Right? It said the first day of Pesach is called Pesach per se. Upasach delechem, it's a jump. It's not a continuum. It's not connected. A jump is that you skip a step. I mean, you go from one thing to another thing that are not connected. That's why you have to jump. If they're connected, you just walk there. It's not a jump. Right? They on the first day of Pesach, they had to stay in their secure perimeter inside the bias, which was had blood. Mashko v'alshtei mezuzas. They had to stay in their own secure perimeter. They weren't on earth. Right? The kedusha of the first day of Pesach is a jump. It's not integrated with the physical world, and they themselves, for them, would be dangerous to be outdoors. And in the physical, they were in their secure perimeters that were guarded by the dam, which is on the mashkev al shtei mezuzas. Right? The first day of Pesach is a jump. It's not integrated. And that's what it means. It's an amazing pasuk. Vayugal l'melech Mitzrayim ki barach ha'am. Paro heard that the nation ran away. What? He released them himself. Right? They told him, Am Yisrael ran away. Ma pitom. And why barach? Right? Who's running? Bnei Yisrael yotzim biyad Roma. Right? So the Ramchal explains, it was a run in the sense that we couldn't sit for any length of time within physical space. Right? Physical space, Gashmias was hostile, right, to our Ruchni state. So everything was besod bericha. That's why it was bechipazon. You got to be on the move. You can't get comfortable here because you don't belong here. Right? So even though Paro released them, but it's like he felt that he was out of his mind when he did it. The whole thing was totally unnatural. From a natural perspective, it was a bricha. It was a running away, right? Because Am Yisrael, and why is Am Yisrael on the run? And bechipazon is because physical space was hostile to Ruchnius at that time. And that's what changed. What changes after the first day of Pesach, which that Kedusha is called the jump, and it's not integrated, is we start the Omer. And the Omer is to have the Hakara, right? That the physical realm comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu also. And that's what changed at Kriyas Yamsuf. That's what Chazal mean, what we say in the Haggadah, that Kama Loku Be'etzba Eser Val Yam, it was a Yad. What is a Yad? What does that mean? What does this piece of poetry mean? Right? Hooray. Only one Makkah alone was called Etzba, Kinim. Right? So it means there were 10 fingers in Mitzrayim, double than what there was on the Yam. If it's just numbers, it's not numbers. It's a qualitative difference, right? And the Maral explains because a finger is a detail. A detail you could have an exception to the rule. The exception to the rule is the lone detail, the freak, right? We have also in science, when we take our measurements, you don't get the same reading over and over again, but the few times that you don't get the same reading, we say either there must have been an error in the experiment or it's a fluke. We don't have to worry, it won't repeat itself. In Mitzrayim, the Kedusha that there was by itself looked like an etzba, it looked like a finger, it looked like a detail, something that won't repeat itself, something that doesn't belong. On the Yam, it looked like a Yad. A Yad is an integrated system. And that's what the fiveness of the Yad represents. The Maral explains is that the four that are the four corners, and then you have the center, the fifth is the center, that shows that all the different points are integrated in one system. And that was the Gilui by Kriyas Yamsuf. That's what the Gemara says. Chazal tell us, Vayashav hayam lifnos boker le'etano. The world, the water went back to its original strength. Chazal say, Al tikrei etano elo litnao, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a condition with nature that has to allow for miracles. And that was revealed by the Yam, that Gashmias and Ruchnias are not at loggerheads. Right? There is a precondition with nature to make it cooperative with miracles. But that was only revealed at the Yam when we're seeing that Ruchnias and the supernatural is just as much a set, real and recurrent system, right? Stable system, no different than the law, the system of the physical laws. And so if you have two systems, how do they coexist? Two different systems? There's a t'nai. There's a whole method of cooperation between them, and that's the mile of Shvi Shel Pesach that's in the days of the Omer over Rishon Shel Pesach that's not, because the Kedusha of Shvi Shel Pesach represents starting to integrate. The integration between the Ruchis and Gash, you see it, there's a T'nai with Teva that has to cooperate with Nes. And with just the problem is that you see that Kriyas Yamsuf didn't finish the process, and therefore Am Yisrael said, "Hayesh Hashem b'karbeinu im oyim." Is Hashem in our midst or not? So the Zohar explains. They weren't asking if God exists or not. God forbid, of course they knew God exists. Yesh or ayin is the difference between ayin is when something comes out of nowhere. Esa einai elaharim may ayin yavo ezri. From where will my help come from? That's when it's just you need bitochen because there's nothing to do. There's no ishtalos to be done. Me'ayin, your help is going to come out of nowhere. Yesh is I can do. I have the can do. And they started seeing a contradiction between bitochen and hishtadlus. And they got frustrated. Are we supposed to make hishtadlus or are we just supposed to have bitochen? And the truth is that it's not a contradiction. It's a contradiction just to us. That we see a contradiction between the spiritual and the physical, and all the kashas that we have between Yediyah and Bechira, Bitochen and Hishtadlus. It comes from our limited understanding that it's all one big integrated system. All one big integrated system. Like we say, Yesh Me'ayin. Just one more point, and that's why by the war against Amalek, we had to learn this lesson ourselves and to put the two systems together. To show that there's no contradiction between Ruch and Kadosh. Yoshua had to make hishtadlus with the sword, with Moshe Rabbeinu with the hands up in prayer, showing that there's no contradiction between the bitochen and the hishtadlus. You do whatever you can with your hands. We also have to raise your hands above your head, in total hismastus to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So putting the hishtadlus and the bitochen together, understanding that the natural, supernatural, are not a contradiction, that's our hisgabras over Amalek.